Well, chapter 34 of Genesis is the one we're going to discuss today. So an interesting story we get to hear about some things that are happening as we're now starting to move beyond the story of Jacob himself and getting into also the story of his children. Okay, remember he had 12 sons and one daughter. So these 13 children or actually he has 12 sons. We actually at this point still has 11. Rachel has not had Benjamin yet. But then we have his daughter Dinah is in here as well. So we have 11 sons and a daughter. So 12 children at this point. Really interesting. We're going to see how this works out. So let's get into this chapter. Shechem defiles Dinah, and the Hivites seek to arrange marriages with Jacob's family. Many, having been circumcised, are slain by Simeon and Levi. Jacob reproves his sons. So this is an important understanding in the history of the tribes of Israel as to why some of the older sons did not get the birthright, basically. So really interesting story that we get here. So not a lot of people, I think, they've heard this story, but I don't know if they've really spent the time to understand it. So verse 1, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which is the first wife of Jacob. Remember, she was the older sister of Rachel that was the first wife, basically. After having, I think, four sons, then she had Dinah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. So Dinah is a daughter. She goes out, because remember, they're in this land of Canaan. They're near the Canaanites in that area. They're dwelling in the city of Shechem. Remember, after the ruler Shechem. So Dinah goes out to meet the other women in the area, basically, to go see these people. And verse 2, when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. So Shechem is the ruler of this little city, and he's the son of Hamor, the Hivite, who is part of this. Now, the Hivites and the Hittites could be just the same. I think there's some people are saying that that's kind of the same type of people, just worded differently, but they're part of that land of Canaan. So these are the descendants of Ham. That's important to remember. So Hamor is the prince of the whole area, and Shechem, his son, has his own little city that he's the king or ruler of, basically. And so Shechem says, oh my gosh, Dinah is gorgeous. She's this beautiful woman that is in my area, different from all the other women in the area. And so he decides to just take her and make her a concubine, basically, just kind of have his way with her. So this is kind of interesting. Let's get into this just a little bit to understand this a little bit more. Part of this probably is a little bit of culture that they have, where the ruler just says, I just take whatever wives I want. You know, we look at Egypt had that with Abraham, basically. So that's probably not an uncommon idea for them to go, oh, I'm the ruler. I get to have whatever women I want. But here is, this is something that comes out of Clarke's Bible commentary. He says the Hebrew word that is translated took in the phrase he took her can mean to take away, sometimes with violence and force, to take possession, to capture, to seize upon. Okay, so that's interesting to understand. So commenting on the phrase that Shechem spake kindly unto the damsel, this is verse 3, basically. One scholar said it means literally, he spake to the heart of the damsel, endeavored to gain her affections, and to reconcile her to her disgrace. It appears sufficiently evident from this and the preceding verse that there had been no consent on the part of Dinah, that the whole was an act of violence, and that she was now detained by force in the house of Shechem, where she was found when Simeon and Levi sacked the city. So this is basically, she was taken against her will to the king's palace, to Shechem's home. And verse 3 says, and his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. So, and Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, get me this damsel to wife. So she's been taken, basically, against her will. And he's going, I love her. I love her. I want her. I want her. And so he goes to his dad, who's the king of the whole area, saying, you're the one that makes all the rules around here. Give me her to wife, basically. And he's trying to be like kind and nice and polite to her, even though he is taken her by force. Her guards have forced her into this and is probably holding her. He is trying to be the gentleman to her, trying to be nice, to convince her to come to his side, basically. I'm sure she's pretty upset at what's going on. So verse 5, and Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. So word gets back to Jacob that Dinah's been taken, basically, and Shechem's had his way with her, basically, and is trying to convince her to be with him and trying to force her into a marriage. So Jacob hears about this and he says, okay, we got to deal with this. So he waits till his sons come back in from the fields, basically. Verse 6, and Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. So Hamor is the ruler of the area, and he goes to Jacob and says, okay, we've got to figure this out. I've got, honestly, Shechem sounds like a spoiled brat. Basically, that's kind of the impression that comes across in my mind. Verse 7, and the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, meaning they were angry. They were really upset, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. So they're mad. Our sister has been defiled. This is not good. This is a disgrace against our family. How dare you do this? So this is a bad situation. I'm sure Hamor's realizing too, Jacob doesn't have just a few people in his tribe, in his family here. So verse 8, and Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. So Hamor is saying, basically, look, my son wants your daughter to wife, and look, let's just be family. Let's just bring it in. We'll let your boys marry our daughters. If you let our boys marry your daughters, we'll make this work out. We'll just come together. You can have open trade. We'll just be a bigger extended family. Everything will be better if you do this, basically. So he's kind of appealing economically and pulling this together, basically. So verse 11, and Shechem said unto her father, which is Jacob, so Shechem's there too, and unto her brethren, the sons of Jacob, remember she's got 11 brothers, let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. So he's saying basically, I will give you whatever you ask for, as long as it's not a lot, basically. So ask me ever so high a dowry and gift is what it really means when he says never so much a dowry. So he's basically saying not so much, if you read it literally, it almost sounds like he's saying, I'll give you a dowry up to a certain point. But if you look at 12a, it means ever so high a dowry. So he's saying, in essence, ask me what you want, I'll give it to you. Basically, tell me what you want for the dowry for the wedding. That's important. That was the tradition, because women, when they got married, spent the time with their husband's family. So when they would do that, they had to compensate the family, because you got to realize back then you had to go fetch water from the well. They didn't have plumbing. They didn't have roads. You had to have lots of people in your group to run your farms, to take care of your animals, to harvest crops, to provide defense. You and your entourage was it. That's how you had to deal with everything. So you needed people. And so when a woman left the family, that would put that family down a person. And so they would give money and compensation to that family, which then they could sell to hire servants or do other things with to help out. So there was a compensation. That's what Shechem's saying is, what do you want in compensation for the loss of your sister or daughter? And so verse 13, the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. Now, if you remember, okay, there was this law given of circumcision as a symbol of this covenant with God, basically, that was important to have back then. So they had to be circumcised. This is the men have the foreskin of their male parts basically cut off. So it's kind of a sheath that goes over the head of the penis, basically. So they're saying basically, look, we can't give her to you. This is terrible because he's uncircumcised. That is like blasphemous in our traditions for our family. So he says, verse 15, but in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters unto us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. So this is in the Septuagint, which is Jewish scriptures that we get a lot of the Old Testament from. It's Simeon and Levi, basically the brothers of Dinah or the sons of Leah, that are saying this, that they're talking about this. So remember, they were some of the older of all the siblings of Jacob, or children of Jacob, I should say. So they've come up with a plan. And I don't know if they thought this through at this point or if they had thought it through by this point. But they decided, look, we can't give her to you at all because you're uncircumcised. That's just terrible. That's blasphemous. We can't do that. But if you and all the men of your city are willing to be circumcised, so the whole area has to be circumcised, all the men have to be circumcised, then we will connect our families together and intermarry together, basically, and work with you. So this is a tall order. You know, the king's gonna be like, all right, every guy, come over here, line up. You're gonna get this done. I'm sure a lot of them are like, what? What's going on? But that's what they said. It's crazy to think about, but that's what happened here. So verse 18, and their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. So they're happy. They're like, oh, good, we found a way to reconcile this out. Verse 19, and the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delighted in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, so this is they're coming together. Verse 19 is kind of the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. So I think there's some mistranslation in that one. That I believe is talking about Shechem, and saying that he, was going to go through with this, basically. But verse 20, we see Hamor and Shechem go to the city gate and talk to the people, saying, these men are peaceable with us, therefore let them dwell in the land and trade therein. For the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. So they're trying to say, we're going to combine our families together, basically. Verse 22, only herein will the men consent unto us, for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. I realize Jacob's got a big family. He's got lots of people. He's got lots of animals. Remember, he had a tremendous amount of wealth. So this is not a small thing for Jacob to be coming into this area. He's kind of a moving city, traveling city by himself, basically. So this is a big deal for them to go, look, we just need to reconcile. We don't want a war between us. We just need to reconcile. And this is going to actually benefit all of us greatly. So verse 24, and unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of his city. and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. So they all went out and they got circumcised. I can't even imagine the scene of all of these men getting this done and the amount of pain and misery they were in for a while with this. So the whole city's circumcised. So you got to realize, on the men, they're in pain. Like, it's probably hurting to walk. It's hurting to, to go to the bathroom. You can't lift as much. You're like putting strain on your body. It's stressing you out. It's causing pain. This is not just a small little act, especially for a grown man to experience this without any anesthesia. At verse 25, and it came to pass on the third day when they were sore. So all the men of the city are not in a good position. They are sore. They are all probably at home resting, bedridden, just they can't get up and do a whole lot yet. That's going to be hard for them to move and do things until their body heals. So now that the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword. So they pulled out their own swords, and they came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went out. So Simeon and Levi, they told them, we can't give our daughter to you until you're all circumcised. So, and I'm sure they had a little bit of debate over this. I'm sure it wasn't like, just suddenly this was what they said. Like, they discussed this and they're like, wait, let's do this. So they're basically, they laid a trap for Hamor and Shechem and the people here. So now that once all the men are sore, which they understand, they come into the city with their swords and literally just start slaying them. The men can't defend themselves because they're already in great pain. So they just kill all the men in the city, basically wipe them out. And then they find Dinah in Shechem's house and they take her to get her out of there. So verse 27, and the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, and because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, their oxen, their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field. And all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. So they just ransacked the city, took all the stuff they wanted, pulled it all out, gathered up the women and children, said, you are our hostages, basically. You're going to be with us. Just took everything from them, basically. So Jacob, verse 30, and Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? So Jacob's going, guys, you're starting a bigger war with the groups around us. We don't have as many people as they do. Surely they're going to see what you did, basically, and you've brought shame on us, and they're going to come wipe us out. And I'm not going to be able to fulfill the promises, basically, of everything. And they're going, but Dad, what else are we going to do? Look at what they did to our daughter, our sister, basically. Look at how they treated her. They treated her like trash. So this is our revenge getting back to them. So what a crazy story that was happening here. Basically, they kind of manipulated their own traditions to basically destroy this city and take them out. So fascinating, just incident that happened, basically. It's not done yet. Of course, next chapter we have a little bit more to talk about with this as well. So stay tuned for that. Leave in the comments what you think about their tactics and strategies here, and realize that they've done something that's not good, basically. So they took matters into their own hands rather than seeking the Lord to help them out, basically, which is a good thing for us to look at, is when do we tend to seek revenge ourselves? And we have to realize if we seek revenge ourselves, then God's not going to help us because we are claiming a reward on our own. And he's not going to benefit us. Whereas if we wait on the Lord to help us, he can compensate us in different ways that are better and not so violent and dangerous and bad. But fascinating story. So we look forward to seeing you in the next chapter.